want to do that? I'm asking you to have a conversation.
Well, you should have done that over there.
Don't point at me. You want to go have a conversation?
Stop being rude to me.
You're the one being rude. You're being cold and you're being condescending.
Emily,
I'm asking you to have
Could you be quiet?
Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 18, Episodes 11 and 12. And before we get into it, let me just start off by saying thank you all for your patience. I appreciate y'all more than you know. I want you to get comfortable. I want you to grab a snack because we will be here for quite some time. I have a lot to say about pretty much everybody. But Tamra, Emily, and Alexis will be worn out thoroughly. So if you came for the dragging, you are in the right place. And one more thing, shout out to Ryan, Jen's boyfriend, because while I have my thoughts about him, the way he thoroughly ate Tamra up in episode 12, I said, come through. But y'all, without further ado, let's just get right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So we open up episode 11 with Gina at Shannon's house. And mind you, Gina had been showing some clients some houses, so she was dressed up, and I'm not going to hold you. This was one of the rare times when Gina actually looked nice. I said, Gina, the outfit was actually decent because any other time I couldn't tell you what Gina is wearing. Gina always looks a mess, but this outfit was actually cute. I said, Gina, more of this. Now, one more thing. Was anybody else annoyed that Gina came to Shannon's house empty-handed? I'm like, girl, what? And I'm pretty sure that there were a bunch of stores on the way to Shannon's house. But Gina bringing 2 lemons from Shannon's neighbor's lemon tree, I said, okay, girl. So anyhow, Gina's asking Shannon how was her show with Vicki, because remember, Shannon had left Sonoma early to do her Tres or Dos Amigas show with Vicki in Houston. So Shannon says it was great. The next one is tomorrow in St. Louis. I'm actually getting on a plane tomorrow morning at 6:45 a.m. to be there. And one thing about it, good for Shannon. I'm happy to hear that the show is still going on despite Tamra quitting. Now, since this is a scene with Gina, do you guys mind if I spill some tea real quick? Because I definitely did tease you when I did the live with Kempire the other day. But when I was at the Real Housewives of New York premiere party, I was talking to some of the producers on the various shows. So I was talking to a producer that works on SLC, a producer that works on New York. So knowing me, when I brought up OC, I said, do you guys mind if I ask, how did Gina get on the show? Because I'm confused. She does not embody a Real Housewife in the least bit. And when I tell you guys, they could not stop laughing. So one of the producers said, well, although I don't work on Orange County, I work on SLC, I work on New York, what I will say is the vast majority of the producers are also confused as to how she got on the show in the first place and how she's still on all this time later. But you guys know me, I'm going to always do that investigative journalism for everybody, all right? I'm going to always ask the questions that we've all been thinking. And one more thing, lean closer. There's a very good chance that this might be her last season, okay? You didn't hear it from me. Don't tell anybody that I told you this, okay? It's between you and I, all right? So now Shannon gives Gina a tour of her home, and then she starts asking Gina, how was the rest of the trip after she left early? So Gina says, well, the last day was cool. We rode bikes, we had lunch, but it did get a bit awkward because me and Katie got into it because I found out that she was telling all these lies about me. She was telling Heather that I'm only friends with her for Heather's connections, and that's not true at all. Now, like I said in the last recap, I believe that Gina did say that. I do think that Gina is a social climber and a user. And I especially feel that she only keeps Heather around because of who Heather knows and because of Heather's status. I have always maintained that. I believe that Gina was screaming at that table because she knows that she was caught. But anyhow, Gina goes on to say that her and Katie did end up making up, but that she wants to rebuild things slowly. And I said, you know what, Gina? You set her up to go against Heather, and now since you're getting the blame for it, now you want to say, oh, well, that's on her, that's not on me. No. You set her up to fail. And like I told you earlier, Katie, you were a fool for ever trusting Gina in the first place. So now we jump on over to Jenn, Emily, and Katie, and they're meeting up for lunch. So I thought it was sweet because Jenn wanted to pay. She said, you guys always pay for me because you guys feel bad for me, but this time let me pay for lunch. It's my treat. So Katie and Emily are both like, no, girl, it's okay. And Jenn insists. So she takes out her card, pays for it, and instead of Emily just saying thank you, here comes the shade. So Emily's like, oh no, I'll Venmo you. I said, girl, if she wants to treat, just allow her to treat you. Why is that so hard? And now we see Emily shading Jenn in her confessional, and she says, well, Jenn can't pay the rent, but she wants to pay for our lunch, baby steps. And I said, now, it's just so funny to me because let somebody bring up what you're insecure about, you'll be the first one crying. And I'm gonna get to you later on. But how dare you? You just can't help yourself. You really live to bash Jenn every chance you get. And again, Emily, what would you have if you and Shane were not living off of Shane's parents' money? You're just so nasty, but yet you want all this grace and you want to be coddled when it comes to your insecurities and what you're sad about. Honestly, Emily, green is not your color because your jealousy of Jenn has been seeping out all season long. It's not a good look, mama, because let's really talk about it. You're best friends with Gina, and Gina has been the broke one of the show since she got on. You haven't made fun of her money issues, but the fact that you're always making fun of Jenn, it shows that you think that Jenn is a threat, because despite Jenn's money being funny, mama looks good. She's snatched, and I think that you hate that, and that's why you're so triggered by her, so you constantly want to put her down by talking about her money issues. And one thing about it, you can always get money, but you can't buy swag, you can't buy charisma, you can't buy what Jenn has naturally. And that's why you're pressed. So now they sit down to catch up and they're all talking about their families. And Emily brings up her daughter, Annabelle. So Emily starts saying that her daughter, Annabelle, is her hardest child to raise. And let me just stop for a minute. Although I'm not a parent yet, I have never liked this collective thought that girls are harder to raise than boys. If we're being honest, the reason why boys are easier, because most times parents don't raise boys. That's why the boys are running amok now. I've always felt like parents should be softer on their girls, in my opinion. Well, that's how it was in my house. My parents were very easy on me and my sister. They were easy on my brother too, but I'm just saying that overall, they felt like girls should be raised with a softer touch. And I've always felt that way too. I think that having daughters is a blessing. I can only hope and dream to have daughters. But when Emily said that, I had to give her a side eye like, really, girl? Why is she your hardest child to raise? What's that about? So now we jump right back over to Shannon and Gina. And Shannon brings up how her attorney called her late last night and pretty much confirmed that John is using that video as blackmail. So she says that John's exact words were, he's holding on to the videos to use it as insurance in case Shannon goes off the rails. And I said, John, you honestly think in your pea brain that this makes sense? So you think that that makes you look good in the court of public opinion? You're such an idiot. If you had any sense, you would take the money and leave Shannon alone. And honestly, Shannon, if I were you, I wouldn't be worried about this whatsoever. And also, I would not offer this man a dime. He's trying to extort you on national TV at that. No, let's take this to court and let's see how this plays out. But just off of principle alone, he wouldn't be getting anything from me. We do cut to Emily's confessional, and she brings up how this lawsuit is going to backfire on John. And I always forget that Emily was a lawyer at one point. So she reads the California Penal Code about how what John is doing is low-key extortion. So now we jump right back over to Emily, Katie, and Jenn having lunch. and Emily decides to bring up the fashion show. So I already knew that this scene was about to piss me off because Emily always finds a way to work my last good nerve, and she did just that. So Emily brings up that the dress that she wore in the fashion show was a size 12. Then she brings up how Alexis wore the same dress as her and hers was a size 2 or a 4. So she says that her dress fit her perfect, it was tiny, and Emily feels like she looked like she was going to court. So then she adds that she was the only one in the group who was asked to bring her own jeans, and the reason for that was she was too big to wear any of the clothes that Heather had. So now Emily shares that she went into the bathroom and had a mini breakdown, and she says that nobody should feel that way. So Jenn and Katie are consoling her, and then Emily goes on to say that I'm pretty sure that Heather isn't trying to be malicious in this circumstance, but she is unaware of how much work I put into myself. So here's what really ticked me off. Emily continues on and says that she feels like Heather still views her as the big girl. So I want to pause right here. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I love healthy discourse. I love a healthy debate. Everybody is entitled to their opinions. This is my opinion. And I have to be honest, I have to be transparent, whether you agree, whether you like it or not. Emily, let me start off by saying you are allowed to feel how you feel. Full stop. But what you are not allowed to do is project your insecurities and your sadness and your trauma onto other people. For some reason, you seem to have this weird inferiority complex when it comes to Heather Dubrow. And I'm gonna take it all the way back to last season, because all throughout last season, you kept on talking about how Heather feels like she's better than people. She feels like she's better than me. I feel that Heather feels that she thinks that her time is more important than mine. You have this weird issue with Heather. For you to say, I feel like Heather views me as the big girl. Girl, what are you talking about? Everybody, including Heather, has complimented you and your weight loss this season. They've all said how good you look. For you to say that implies that Heather is treating you bad or fat shaming you when she's doing nothing of the sort. When you brought up how, well, she made me bring my own jeans because she felt like I couldn't fit anything in her line. Is that what happened, or is that how you feel? Feelings are not facts. And just because you feel a certain way doesn't make it so. And this is why I keep saying that Emily needs to go and talk to the lady. I'm not saying that to be shady. I'm saying that because every single episode, Emily is sitting up there, bringing up her trauma and her triggers and placing it on somebody else. She's been doing it all season long with Heather and Jenn. And it's not fair to them, and it's exhausting to watch as a viewer. Let's call a spade, Emily. You are threatened by Heather. And what's really weird to me is that Tamra body shamed you when you first joined this show. She called you Shrek. She was going in on your looks, and you had nothing to say. But Heather, who has never said anything about your body or anything of the sort, she's catching all this smoke and all this hell from you. I'm just like, I don't understand it. If you hated the dress that Heather put you in, fine. If you felt like you were annoyed with having to bring your own jeans, I'ma give you that. But for you to add all this extra sauce saying, oh, well, I feel like she views me as the big girl and she doesn't notice all the work that I put into myself and I just feel like this and I feel like that, that's where you've lost me. And Emily, let me call you out right now, because later on in the episode, when you guys are at Jen's party, when you and Alexis have words, in your confessional, you call Alexis a giraffe. Did you not? Is that not low-key, I guess you could say, body shaming? Because I distinctly remember when you had thrown that party at your house or at Shane's parents' house last season, and Heather jokingly, I might add, said, oh my gosh, Emily, you look so cute. You look like a cute snuffleupagus. You were talking about, oh, that's body shaming me. Why would she say that? So it's okay for you to call somebody a giraffe, but let somebody say one thing about you. Now all of a sudden, oh, they're the worst person and, you know, they're body shaming me and this, that, and the third. And if you do agree with Emily, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. My thoughts and opinions aren't changing. Emily wants to find fault with Heather for anything that she says or does. Heather can't do anything right in Emily's eyes. And I wasn't moved by these tears at this lunch table either. I've met a few people like Emily with the same exact attitude and spirit, so it really irks my soul seeing Emily on my screen. Because Emily is the type where, since she's insecure and she's battling her internal demons, she's upset when she sees other people who are happy and thriving and confident. People with low self-esteem and insecure, they don't get along. They don't do well with people who have high self-esteem and feel good about themselves. And I've been saying it since the beginning that Emily has always had low self-esteem. And that's not anybody else's issue. That's an internal issue that only you can work out. But instead, she wants to place everything on Heather and blame Heather for everything. And I can't stand to see it. So we learned from Emily that she got a testosterone pellet in her butt, and that's why she's so emotional. Emily always has an excuse every time she has an outburst and lashes out at people, so I don't want to hear it. So we jump to a short scene with Heather and Terry. They're at the GLAAD Awards, and I thought it was cool because we see Heather presenting the award with Meredith. Now, I remembered when Angie K had her Greek Easter party last season, Meredith wasn't there because one, Angie did not invite her, and then two, Meredith was in LA for the GLAAD Awards with Heather. But anyhow, we see Alexis Bellino in the crowd. She's cheering Heather on, and she says that she wants to create a world where all of her kids can thrive and be themselves. Now, I got my entire life because there was the auction portion, and we see Heather and Terry bid on the world's most expensive bottle of Veuve Clicquot. And we know that Heather loves her champagne.
We drinking strawberry and champagne. Hold on, let me get a strawberry. Let me get a strawberry. I love it. Strawberry in my drink.
So now we jump to the next scene, and we see Tamra and her daughter Sophia and Katie and her daughter Callie meeting up to hang out. They're doing a candle making class, and Katie says that she's happy that Sophia and Callie have become new friends because they have a lot in common. They're both gamers, they both love fashion, they're both artists, and they both have very strained and complicated relationships with their dads. Now, was it just me, or did anybody feel like the conversation in this scene was way too heavy? You guys have your daughters with you, you're trying to have a cute mother-daughter day, having fun, making candles. Why are y'all talking about childhood trauma with your dads and divorce? Like, why are we talking about this? So anyhow, Tamra starts asking Katie about the relationship that she has with her 14-year-old son, who still lives with her ex-husband in Georgia. So Katie says, it feels unnatural. I cry every time. I cried a few days ago because I sent him off on a plane to go back to his dad, and it hurts. Now, I said this before in a previous recap, but I feel that Katie really has what it takes to be a top-tier housewife. The personal story is there because I am intrigued about this whole situation with the ex and the kids. She's pretty, she's fashionable, a husband who's doing well, nice house, money. Everything is there for her to stay on this show. And I'm saying that because what I had heard allegedly is that Bravo is considering not bringing her back. They think that she's not really bringing it as a housewife and she might be a one and done. I feel like Katie should get a second chance. I think that, again, the material is there. As long as she stops coming for Heather, I think she could really stay on this show for seasons to come. Again, y'all, I'm just giving y'all the tea that I hear as I pass through these Bravo streets. But Katie, I will say, if this is your first and your last season, the blame is on you, Miss Mamas, because I could have told you that coming on this show to go after Heather about a storyline that you weren't even involved in, that's a setup for failure. If you are on the chopping block, like I'm hearing, you know that you have to go hard at this reunion. But Tamra warns her daughter and Katie's daughter to be careful who they procreate with. And now Sophia jumps in and says that that's the reason why she doesn't want to have kids or get married in the first place. So Tamra's like, well, maybe you'll change your mind. And Sophia's like, no, no. Then we see Sophia in her own confessional, and she says that bringing kids in the world is selfish and you shouldn't do it just because you're married or in love, because it's not fair to the kids. It's not a pet. And I said, she's right. But the reason why I feel she feels so strongly is due to the fact that her parents had a pretty horrible marriage and a very horrible divorce, and they're still going at it now. So I think that she's scarred from what she's seen, and I don't blame her. And this conversation also felt like, once again, here goes Tamra overstepping and crossing a boundary because your daughter has asked you several times to not bring up Simon. And here you go at a candle making class bringing up marriage and divorce and your issues with Simon. It's like you just can't help yourself. Now, I'm not going to hold you, but this next scene with Jenn talking to her son, I don't have any words for it. I was annoyed watching her son sort of blame her. And I'm thinking, your mom is trying to help you out so that you can have a successful life. The way he was trying to act like he can't stand her and he needs space from her, when he told her, that's why I want to live with dad because he respects my space. And I said, you want to live with your dad, but your dad is in a 1-bedroom apartment. So what space would you have if you lived with him? But Jenn says that she feels like a failure because she wishes that somebody would have told her about her potential when she was 17, because had she known, she wouldn't be in this boat at 46. And I said one thing about it, you can't beat yourself up about what you didn't know and what you didn't do when you were younger. Life is right now. Life is present. So you can't dwell on the past and your mistakes. Do better today. That's all you can do. But I was really upset seeing her son just completely disregard what she was trying to say. And then for him to act like she's the worst parent when all she's doing is trying to help him. I said, okay, like, whatever. But my heart goes out to Jenn because she's dealing with so much. Her financial issues, her ex-husband, now her oldest son is giving her problems. I just said, poor thing. But at least Jenn is giving us her real life. We're not getting any gimmicks, no fake storylines, and I love it. It's real. And I'll go as far as to say that Jenn has been one of the most authentic new housewives that we've gotten in quite some time. And it's refreshing. So now it's the night of Jenn's party and she's having a game night for all the ladies. Everybody's there except for Shannon because we all know that Shannon is in St. Louis for her show with Vicki. Now, did anybody notice that Emily's mood seemed to shift when Heather got there? So Jenn is telling the ladies all about the issues that she's having with her oldest son, Dawson, how he's coming in the house at 3 a.m. Heather reassures her that all teens do this. It happens. And then you have Tamra saying, yup, I mean, look at who's out at 3 a.m. Nothing but the drunks. And she's obviously trying to throw shade at Shannon. I said, girl, you really can't help yourself. Shannon lives in your head rent-free. Are you not exhausted? So here's where things take a weird turn. Alexis arrives. And Alexis, if you think that I've been hard on you before, I want you to know that I'm going to be whacking you several times in this episode because, girl, you were a complete weirdo at this party. You should have stayed home. But anyhow, she gets there, she gives Heather a big hug. She's like, oh my gosh, Heather, I missed you. And Heather thanks Alexis for coming out the other night to the GLAAD Awards. So Alexis says, of course, I wouldn't have missed it. And now Heather says, and by the way, I wish that you had brought John with you. And Alexis all of a sudden becomes quiet. And it was a weird silence. That silence that sort of implies that there might have been a breakup. So now you have all them staring at her in confusion. And Tamra's like, girl, what's going on? Are you and John good? So Alexis says, oh, we're great. Never been better. We're just fine. So they're all like, okay, well, if that's the case, why were you so silent when Heather said that? So once again, Alexis is being weird. She's still quiet. And now you have Tamra saying, what's going on? What happened? And even Heather starts yelling. Heather's like, what happened? Spit it out. Like, girl, what are you trying to say? What's tea? Like, we're lost. Again, Alexis, you were doing way too much. The weird antics. You clearly wanted attention. So Alexis, like the weirdo that she is, she starts fake crying. She's like, it's just all this legal drama. It's this legal battle. I can't take it. The other day, she told John that they should have met 6 months after because it's too much. There's so much baggage between them. She had just lost her mom when they met. Then she had just broken up with her ex-fiance. And now he's in this legal battle with his ex. It's too much to handle. And I said, first of all, nobody told you that you and John had to start this relationship so soon. You're so desperate for a man that's why you chose to dive in head first. For you to act like somebody has a gun to your head to stay with John, that's crazy. Alexis, are you not ashamed to be this much of a desperado at your big age? Are you not embarrassed? It is okay to be single. And you sounded even crazier when you said breaking up with Johnny is not an option. I said, girl, are you well? And I don't even mean that in a shady way. I'm really concerned. Are you okay? And truth be told, the real reason why you want to stay in this relationship is to piss off Shannon. That's it and that's all. That is your sole mission in life right now. Now, Alexis, what was that weird accent that you were doing when you were like, well, I want to go and have fun tonight. Like, let's all have fun. It was like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Alexis was acting weirder and weirder by the minute. I said, again, bravo, let this be our last time ever seeing Alexis Bellino on our screens. So now it's time for them to play games, and they're playing Truth or Dare Jenga. So they each pull out a block, and they have to do something silly. So we saw Heather pulled out a block that said, bark like a dog. She actually did it. And Heather did a good job because she sounded like a dog. I was like, okay, let me find out that Heather has some hidden talent somewhere. So now Katie's block says to flash people your butthole. She actually does it. Then we see Tamra's block say that she has to pee on the floor or pee on the grass. And Tamra actually did it. I said, girl, what? But I'm not surprised because Tamra has always been tacky. So Alexis pulls out a block and it says, who do you hate? Now we all know that she wanted to say Shannon, but she thought better of it. And she says, I hate the devil. And I said, girl, you're talking about your boyfriend and Tamra, but okay. And mind you, everybody was getting irritated by Alexis because even Emily says in her confessional that she's getting really exhausted and she's finding Alexis to be annoying and just weird. So here's where everything starts going left. They finish playing Jenga and now Tamra brings up Heather's clothing line, which then has Emily bringing up the fashion show and how she felt. So Emily says, Heather, may I talk to you for a minute? Because before the fashion show, you texted all of us asking us for our measurements, but you told me specifically to bring my own jeans. So Heather is like, yeah, like what's your point? Where are we going with this? Because she can already tell that Emily is about to be on some BS. Now, Emily, here's my first issue with you. Because if you knew that you want to address Heather about this, you should have done this in private. I really hate when these women want to have these conversations with everybody around. If you want to talk to me about something, talk to me one-on-one. Don't talk to me in front of the group. And if you want to involve everybody in it, then I'm going to involve everybody in it too in my response. So Emily goes on to say that she thought that everybody else was also bringing their own pair of jeans too. So Heather says, no, I asked everybody to bring different things. So Emily states that she felt very hurt at the fact that she was the only one not wearing Heather's line. Now, here's where I'm confused because weren't all the pieces Heather's line? The dress that Emily wore and the oversized jacket, that was Heather's line, was it not? So Emily goes on to say that she had a mini breakdown in the bathroom. She cried because she felt like she was being singled out. Then she goes on to say that that moment really killed her And now Heather jumps in and she's trying to console Emily. And she's like, oh no, that wasn't the case at all. Like, no, no, no. And now Tamra jumps in to defend Heather. So she says, Emily, Heather would never do that. So we cut to Heather's confessional and she says that she's shocked to hear this because she thinks that Emily has a great body. And we see some unaired footage of when her and Emily were hanging out and they're both in bikinis. And we hear Heather tell Emily that Emily's so lucky. She has a great ass, a great body. And Emily is loving it. Like I said before, Heather has been very complimentary about Emily and her weight loss and her body and her curves. So for Emily to try to now insinuate that Heather is in the wrong and trying to body shame her, no ma'am. So now Heather goes on to say that Emily is projecting her insecurities onto her and she can't figure out why. So Emily's getting emotional and she says, I know that you wouldn't do this to be malicious, but it's just that I worked so hard for these last 15 months to lose weight. And I said, okay, what does that have to do with Heather? Please explain to me the thought process, Emily, because I'm confused. Because you mentioned this earlier on in the episode when you said, oh, I feel like Heather doesn't see the work that I've done. When you improve yourself in any way, whether that's losing weight, looking better, anything to do with leveling up, you do that for yourself first and foremost. So whether people compliment you or not, that's irrelevant. Is it nice for people to notice your hard work? Yes, it is. But if they don't give it to you, you still need to be secure in yourself and know that you did the damn thing, whether people applaud you or not. I don't understand what you want from Heather. So Heather says, Emily, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. I thought that I was giving you a starring role in the fashion show. Some of the girls only had 2 outfit changes and I gave you 3. One thing about Miss Heather, Heather can hold it down in an argument because you have Emily trying to interrupt her and Heather says, oh no girl, it's my turn to talk. I'll let you talk, get what you had to say out. Now it's my turn. So Heather says, again, Emily, I wanted you to feel like a star. So now Emily interjects again and she says, well, I didn't even feel good in the dress because Alexis had the same dress on. And I said, again, you're telling on yourself, Miss Mamas. You feel like Alexis looked better in that dress and that's the real issue. And now you want to pin this on Heather and act like Heather is the one at fault. No, ma'am. The issue lies with yourself. You compared yourself to Alexis and now you want to blame everybody else for how you felt about yourself. And that's not fair and it's not right. So Emily goes on to say, and on top of that, the dress was a size 12 and her dress was a size 2. So Heather's like, girl, that's not my fault. And Heather's right because that's nobody else's fault that you guys are different sizes. Somebody help me out. Am I seeing this wrong? Let me know because I honestly felt like listening to Emily had me going crazy. And when they played the clips back of Emily on the runway in the dress, I thought that Emily looked fine in the dress. I didn't think that she looked bad. I honestly feel like Emily is just hung up on the fact that the dress was a 12. I think that's what it really is because again, I'm just not understanding why she's lashing out at Heather about this dress. And for anybody who says, oh no, well, if you were around people who are smaller than you, well, that's been the case ever since Emily got on this show. So what is everybody supposed to do? I just don't get it. I feel like Emily has a lot of insecurities that she needs to work on off the show. This might not be the best show for her then. So Heather makes it clear that she wasn't the one sizing them. She got their measurements and then sent their measurements to the designer and they sized them. And now Heather says, and newsflash, the dress on Emily wasn't big on her. It was actually tight. Now Heather, was that an inside thought that should have just stayed up here? Yeah, it was. Let's call a spade a spade. I'm not going to sit up here and make excuses for Heather. That was shady. But I will say that I thought the dress on Emily looked nice. So I'm just not understanding all this smoke that she has for being put in the same dress as Alexis when she looked nice in the dress. So now Emily's voice is raised and she's sort of crying as she's talking. And she's like, Heather, why couldn't you just say, I didn't think of it like that? So Heather says, I did say that. So now Emily's like, no, you didn't. So now Alexis jumps in and she defends Heather. She's like, Emily, Heather did say that. So here's where things get really weird. Emily at this point starts sobbing and she's like, why are you being so rude to me? And I was like, Emily, are you really doing this right now? You just want to have an issue with Heather. That's it. So as Emily is sobbing, Alexis gets up and she starts screaming that Emily is comparing her to herself. And now Emily turns around and she's like, Alexis, what are you talking about? Like, what are you saying right now? And she's over it. She's tired of Alexis. She's been over Alexis since the beginning of this party, and she's not here for it now. And Alexis, Miss Mamas, you should have sat there and ate your food, because the way you were carrying on, while I can't stand Emily, I was happy when she wore your ass out for being a weirdo. So in the middle of Alexis trying to insert herself in the drama that does not involve her in the least bit, you have Emily and Heather still going at it. Heather says, I didn't do anything. So Emily's like, I didn't say that you did. And I said, girl, this whole conversation, you've been saying that Heather hurt your feelings. Like, what are we talking about? Emily, you need to be so blessed and thankful that I'm not on this show, because I would have worn you out a long time ago because you try it. And I loved how Heather clocked it when she said, it feels like you keep coming at me. So Emily's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. So now Heather says, I apologize to you. And now you have Emily saying, I want an apology. That's not an apology. I said, girl, Heather, if I were you, I would just get up and leave this whole entire party. Emily does not want peace with you. Get that through your head. You and Emily will never be able to have a real friendship because of Emily's insecurities and her triggers and her jealousy of you. So now Alexis inserts herself again and she starts screaming that Heather did apologize. And now Emily starts yelling and she's like, Alexis, shut up. So now Emily says that Alexis has been a wackadoodle all night. And I said, now Emily, while that's true, you've also been nutty all night too. You and your antics are exhausting and we're all tired. So leave us alone as well. Now, Miss Katie, let me gently whack you, because you're talking about, oh, Heather gets defensive when she's not painted in a perfect light and she makes it all about her. That's not what Heather was doing. Heather was calmly explaining her side of the story and saying that I never meant to make you feel bad. I want to make you the star of the show, and I don't have an issue with your body. I think that you look great. That's all that Heather said. I don't know why you don't want to like Heather, but it's getting old and it's getting annoying. So this party has officially gone off the rails, and now we see Heather talking to, I want to say it was either Gina or Tamra, but she's off to the side, and Emily is still sitting down. So Emily gets up and she walks over to Heather and she's like, Heather, can we talk? And Heather's like, you want to talk in private now? Where was all that energy before when we had this whole conversation in front of the group? And I said, exactly, Heather, please pay her dust. Because now you want to talk to me in private after you tried to embarrass me? Absolutely not. And I hate the way Emily always plays victim and wants to antagonize somebody, because she starts saying to Heather, do you want to yell? I'm just asking you to talk. And I said, girl, you're the one who started this whole entire thing. The way you spoke to Heather 5 minutes ago was out of line, but now you want to police her tone. No, ma'am. Now, mind you, when Emily is saying this, she's waving and flailing her arms in Heather's face. So Heather points, and now you have Emily say, get your finger out my face, and she pushes Heather's hand down. Now, I'm going to tell you just like this. I don't claim to be a fighter. You guys know that I am not one for violence whatsoever. But Emily, had you pushed my hand down like that, I might have slapped you. The reason why I do not feel any sympathy for Emily is because she's always playing the villain and the victim at the same time. And like I have always said, you can't be both. Pick a side. She is constantly on Heather's ass about something, and the minute Heather shades her or reads her or defends herself, now it's an issue. So Heather checks Emily and she says, stop being rude to me. me. So Emily says, stop being rude to me. You're being rude and condescending. I said, oh, here we go. That's always everybody's go-to line every time they want to read Heather. Oh, she's condescending. She's pretentious. No, she's only that way because you guys try her first. Heather's had enough. She says, Emily, can you be quiet for 1 minute? Emily gets angry and she says, no, I can't. So she storms off and then she says, F off. I said, girl, that would have been the last time that you ever spoke to me again because Emily, I have nothing for you after that. It's time for Emily to go. I don't think that Emily gives anything to this show. She's boring. She brings us nothing, no storyline. We've been hearing about her childhood trauma as a storyline since she first got on this show. I'm done. It's time for her to go after this season and take Gina with you. Where was all this energy when Tamra called you Shrek? She said that you were unattractive. Girl, she was calling you all sorts of names. She said that you should not be on this show. Her and Vicki were both wearing you out. They both didn't like you. They thought that you were weird, misfits, you and Gina. But yeah, you want to have this smoke and all this energy for Heather? Absolutely not. Now, just when you think that this party can't get any worse or any weirder, you have Alexis trying to make this all about herself. So she's whining to Gina about how she's upset to hear that Emily compared her and the dress. And she's like, I'm going through a lot right now. I'm a broken bird. I said, Alexis, will you go home? You came into this party with weird energy. Just leave us alone, please. It's not about you right now. And like I mentioned earlier on, Emily is in her confessional and she says that Alexis looks like a giraffe and she needs a muzzle on her. She feels like a zookeeper. So I just said, now, is that not body shaming or looks shaming, calling somebody a giraffe? Because I can assure you that if somebody compared you to an animal, you'd be crying and sobbing and talk about, oh, that's body shaming. I can't believe it. So it's okay when you do it, but let somebody say that about you, Emily, and then it's a problem. So now we see the rest of the women in the kitchen and Tamra is consoling Heather. She says, Heather, you did nothing wrong. So now we cut to Tamra's confessional and she says, do you really think that a woman who's hosting a charity event to raise money for people is going to single you out and fat shame you? Absolutely not. That's not Heather's character. Now, would I do something like that? Yes. And I said, now, Tamra, we know that you would, so I'm glad that you did admit that, but you're not telling us anything that we don't know. Heather's pissed, and she says, are you really telling me right now that while I'm raising money for family equality, she's in the bathroom crying because I made her bring some jeans? Are you kidding me? So Tamra agrees, and she says, I know, there are bigger fish to fry. So we see Gina and Emily outside. Gina's consoling Emily and she says, I feel so badly about it. So they walk back into the house to leave. And as they're passing through the kitchen, we see Heather just staring at Emily and Gina. So Emily's like, Heather, don't look at me like that. And Heather's like, I can look at you however I want to look at you. I'm upset by what happened. Emily, who are you to tell anybody not to look at somebody a certain way? You can't police Heather's reaction to you. If she wants to look at you, she can. Let's not forget that 5 minutes ago, you pushed her hand down like that. So if she does stare at you, that's her right. Now, Alexis, it just felt like you were dying to have a moment because why on earth did you think it was a good idea to insert yourself yet again? So I don't know what Alexis said, and Emily turns to Alexis and she's like, Alexis, for the last time, shut the entire F up. You're not involved in this. You're only a friend of the show. So again, girl, be quiet, know your place, know your role. And even Alexis was gagged. She was like, okay, well, I might be a friend of, but at least I'm a true friend. And I said, girl, she ate you up. Just go home. Just leave. And we close out the episode with Emily walking out and screaming that Alexis needs to shut up and go F John some more. Y'all, when I tell you, this episode had me so tight. Emily and Alexis both wore me thin, but more so Emily. Because I think that it is insane that Emily is trying to place blame on Heather when Heather did nothing to her.
Don't talk about my kids.
I apologize
because I will go after you if you go after my kids.
I didn't go after your kids. I said worry about your own Ryan. So if you said worry about your own...
That's going after my own kid, you bitch. You're a bitch.
Oh, I don't even know you.
sit there, Eddie.
I don't even know you.
You and I have known each other for so.
So now we start off episode 12 with Tamra, Gina, and Emily meeting up for coffee. So of course they're talking about what went down at Jen's game night. And here goes Emily trying to act like she's innocent. She says, I was only trying to have a conversation with Heather. I said, girl, no, you weren't. You started off the conversation all wrong. You came in hostile and aggressive. You wanted a fight. And you got one. So now Emily brings up how Alexis was inserting herself and acting like a weirdo the whole entire night. And Gina co-signs on it too. She goes on to say that when her and Heather were in the bathroom that night, Alexis kept repeating that something bad was going to happen, but she wouldn't tell us what. So Gina says, whatever it is that's going to come out is going to be a mess. And then Tamra jumps in saying that Shannon is effed. And we know that Tamra lives for Shannon's downfall. Well, actually, Tamra lives for anybody's downfall because that's a miserable woman and she enjoys seeing other people suffer just like she is internally. But now we cut to a clip that says 8 hours later and we hear Shannon sobbing on the phone with Tamra. So we already know that this has to do with John and this lawsuit. So now we jump on over to Heather and Terry. And they're at the doctor's office. We find out that Terry is going in for a rhinoplasty because he's been snoring so crazy and Heather can't sleep. So before his rhinoplasty, they want to get him checked out to make sure that his heart is good under anesthesia. Because remember, Terry had a stroke last year. So as they're waiting for the doctor, Terry says, oh yeah, how was last night? So Heather says there was fun and silliness and laughter, but there was also tears, sadness, strife, pain, and arguments. It was a lot. So now we cut to Heather's confessional, and she says that after last year, she's really evaluated her friendships and where her friendships stand. And then she adds that when it comes to Gina and Emily, it always feels like they go 2 steps forward to go 2 steps backwards. Heather, for the last time, they are not your friends. You cannot be friends with people who want your life and are jealous of you and are insecure every time they're around you. It's not going to work. Gina and Emily both are intimidated by you. They feel inferior to you, and those are their own issues. You cannot be friends with people who feel badly every time you step in the room. They both want you to dim your light. Insecure people cannot hang around secure, confident people. It does not work. That's why Emily and Gina are like this, because they're both the same. Let the dream die of you guys having this great friendship. It's not going to happen. So Heather is telling Terry about the drama in the group, the drama that she's facing, and how she feels confused with Gina and the whole Katie situation. And now Terry jumps in and says, when you have a challenge with somebody, you have a whole process. You need to keep rehashing what happened in order for you to feel better. And that is true. I didn't think that what Terry said was bad or rude or snarky. He was telling the truth. He knows his wife better than anybody. So when you snapped at him, I was like, girl, are you okay? You must be cranky from the night before, because what Terry said was not off base. So Heather dismisses Terry, and Terry's like, you know what? I don't want to talk to you then if you're going to cut me off and not let me speak. So as they're walking out the room to go to the next room with the doctor, we hear Terry and Heather behind one of the walls, and we can hear Heather say, don't admonish me like that on camera. Don't talk to me like that. And Terry says, well, don't dismiss me like that. Don't talk to me like that. And I said, now, Heather, I have to gently whack you, sis, because that's a bad look. And the whole point of being on this show is to show your real life. And the fact that you're telling your husband what not to say on camera, I'm so sorry, Heather, but that's unacceptable. We want real moments from everybody on this group. And sometimes things aren't perfect. Sometimes you and your spouse snap at each other, and it's okay. That's real life. But I didn't like how you snapped at Terry for no reason, in my opinion, and then telling him what not to say on camera. Like, okay, Heather, you're doing a bit too much now. So now we cut over to Jenn and Ryan, and they're going shopping because Ryan wants some new clothes. Ryan looks so tacky, And on top of that, his style looks so dated. I feel like Ryan's style is stuck in 2008 or something. Ryan looks like he's still wearing Ed Hardy and Von Dutch. And the sales lady was so shady because she came out and she was like, oh, that jacket, Eddie just bought it. Do you know them? They were like, oh, yeah, we know them. Like, okay, cool. Ryan looked pissed because he liked that jacket a lot. So Ryan finishes trying on clothes, and now Jenn brings up her relationship with Tamra. She says that obviously last year things were rocky, but we're finally in a better place and I'm loving it. So Jenn continues on by saying that Eddie means a lot to her too, and she would really appreciate it if Ryan and Eddie could have a sit-down conversation to mend fences. So Ryan's like, yeah, that's fine. I don't have an issue with either one of them, but Eddie's not a dude that I would hang out with because Eddie is not a dude. I said, ooh. Jenn, you need to learn how to read from your boyfriend because Ryan was low-key, high-key reading both Eddie and Tamra throughout this episode, and I was getting my entire life. I was living for all of it. So now we see a parallel scene with Tamra and Eddie at home. And is it just me, or do both Tamra and Eddie look checked out of their marriage? And somebody made a great point. Eddie looks like Tamra is sucking his life force. I used to think that Eddie was so cute when he first started dating Tamra and they got together. And now Eddie looks honestly like a shell of himself. He looks so different. He looks tired. He looks beaten down. And I'm not surprised because look at who he's married to. But Tamra's talking to Eddie about her and Jenn's relationship and how she's happy with where things are. And I said, Tamra, you need to be grateful because after you threw that napkin in Jenn's face, Jenn should have punched you out and never talked to you again. I cannot wait for somebody to come on this show and put Tamra in her place because I'm so tired of all the havoc that she wreaks every season. So Tamra continues on by saying that Jenn loves Eddie, and Eddie agrees. He says that he loves Jenn too, and he thinks that she's a great and kind and sweet woman. So of course Ryan gets brought up, and we see a clip of when they were at Gina's dinner that went south, and Tamra's telling the group of how Ryan went on a podcast bashing her and Eddie. And she claimed that he was talking about her as a mom and talking about Eddie and how everybody at Cut Fitness hated him. Now Tamra, when production played the clips, Ryan wasn't even saying all that, but again, go off. So anyhow, Eddie says that Ryan showed his true colors, and now we have Tamra asking if Eddie would be interested in having a conversation with Ryan. So Eddie says, not a chance in hell. I don't want to talk to him. No conversation will be had. So now Tamra says that she's not trying to go backwards with Jenn. And then she says that she hopes that Ryan won't be a little bitch and act like, well, because you came for me first, now I'm going to come for you. And I said, hold on. Do you know that that's how it works, Tamra? I don't understand how Tamra feels that she can say and do whatever she wants to people, but when they clap back and defend themselves and blast her, now it's a problem. Tamra, the way you treated Jenn and Ryan all last season was disgusting and disturbing. Talking about how Ryan has effed every woman in Orange County. Talking about how he was cheating on Jenn. How he's a user, he's a grifter, this, that, and the third. But yet you're angry and upset that he went off on a podcast about you and Eddie. It was deserved. You threw a napkin in his girlfriend's face. Let's talk about that. You have no right to call him a little bitch after you've gotten on him and his girlfriend for over a year and a half. Are you dumb? And I find it comical that y'all want to say that Ryan's a bitch when he's willing to have a man-to-man conversation, but Eddie's not. And I really hit the floor when Tamra said, I just really hope that Ryan will apologize. I said, apologize for what? You started this whole entire thing. Tamra is truly delusional. So now we see Shannon at home, and she's on FaceTime with her daughter Adeline, who goes to school in New York. So she's like, hey girl, how are you doing? How's school? And then she goes on to ask if her daughter is dating. So her daughter says, the men here, it's a mess. And then she says, the only dates I accept are dates to Carbone. I said, I know that's right. Now Shannon was screaming. She said, now girl, let's live in reality. You're only 19. Carbone is a bit much. And don't ask me how long I've been on the wait list for Carbone either, okay? It's a sore subject. If any of y'all happen to work at Carbone, bartender, hostess, waiter, waitress, please hit my line. You can DM me, email me, in the subject line put Carbone, I got you. I'll tip you extra, all right? Like, I got you. I'm a great tipper, so. I remember the only reservation they had a few months ago was a reservation on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. And I said, I'm not doing that. That kind of reservation is for either tourists, no offense to the tourists, hey, but it's not the hot time to go. But let me not get off on a tangent, but Adeline, we're right here. So now Adeline's asking Shannon, how was her tour? And Shannon says, oh, it was great. I laughed for 3 days. It's just what I needed. So now she brings up her lawsuit with John, and Adeline says, he's just so gross. I can't believe that he's doing that. And I said, yeah, this grown-ass man who is almost 70 years old suing Shannon for what? Because he's a grifter and a leech. And John, you should feel so ashamed of yourself for asking Shannon for anything, especially when she paid the whole way when you guys were together. So Shannon says that she feels like she's hit rock bottom and she can't go even lower. And right when Shannon says that, we cut to a clip that says later that day, and we hear Tamra at home saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And we find out that People magazine has just released the news that John is suing Shannon. So Tamra says it's official, it's hit the press. Then she says that even though we all knew in the group, when news like this hits the press, it takes it to a different level. And I'm like, well, duh, we knew that. Thank you, Captain Obvious. So Tamra continues on by saying that no wonder why Alexis was acting so weird at Jen's party the other night, because she knew that this article was going to come out. So now we see Tamra call Shannon, and Shannon does not pick up the phone. So now a few seconds later, Shannon calls Tamra back, but it's a butt dial. So we hear Shannon sobbing. She's talking to somebody else. I'm assuming it's her lawyer. Shannon is just wailing. She's saying that she thinks that Alexis hired her PR team to put this story out, and Tamra is just listening. Now, Tamra, here's how I know that you just have no soul. Because any good friend, any decent person would have hung up the phone when they realized that it was a butt dial. The fact that you are so nosy and so miserable to sit there and listen in on your friend sobbing like that, hang up the damn phone. And did anybody notice that smirk on her face? I said, Tamra can't even hide the glee that she's feeling seeing Shannon suffer like this. Shannon, I'm gonna tell you just like this. Let this be the last season that you ever try to make amends with Tamra. Tamra does not like you. So I guess Shannon realizes that it was a butt dial, so she hangs up the phone. So we see Tamra call up Heather, and as she's calling her up, she says out loud, oh, Shannon, why didn't you just pay him the money? I said, Tamra, are you stupid? Did you not hear Shannon in Sonoma? Shannon said that she offered to pay him the money. What are you talking about? Tamra will find any way to blame Shannon. She will never give Shannon the benefit of the doubt ever. And that's not a friend. Tamra is sick. I don't understand how she has any fans. But we cut to Heather's confessional, and she says, for John to say that he hated the spotlight, him suing Shannon like this is counterintuitive. Then she goes on to say that she doesn't know what John and Alexis are trying to accomplish with this lawsuit. And I said, girl, they need money. They need money to pay for their lifestyle, to pay for this wedding. They're both grifters, they're both losers, and they both are hungry and desperate for $1. So now we cut to a few short scenes. We see Katie at home. She's getting ready for her dinner party. She's having all the couples over. Emily and Shane, Jenn and Ryan, and Tamra and Eddie. Then we cut to the day of Dr. Terry's rhinoplasty. All is well, he's fine, he has a brand new nose, and Heather is happy. And now we jump to this scene with Gina, and I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna breeze right on past it because I don't care. Gina whining about her and Travis and their relationship does not interest me in the least bit. And like I said, this needs to be Gina's last season. I will say this though, every time we see Gina's ex-husband, Gina, in my opinion, always looks a bit pained, and I still believe that Gina wants her ex-husband back because her ex-husband proposed to the girlfriend, and Gina talking about, oh, I'm just so happy and I couldn't have picked out a better stepmother for my kids and welcome to the family. I said, girl, that sounds so fake. I might be cynical, but I still don't believe that Gina is happy to see that her ex-husband has moved on and he's happy with his new woman. And again, I don't care about Gina and her life story and her personal story or her storyline, so let's just move on. So now it's the day of Katie's dinner party and everything is set up lovely. The table outside looks gorgeous. And Katie says that being from the South, when you have people over, you cook for them. So she says she ordered the food, but she's going to plate it and make it like she cooked, but she didn't. So she says that she ordered brisket, mac and cheese, potato salad, beans. There's going to be some bread. And you already know that my mouth was watering, and it is watering right now as we speak because I am currently thinking about what I'm going to order for dinner. Double recaps really work up an appetite. So Katie lets her husband Matt know that, by the way, there might be some drama tonight because Eddie, Tamra, and Ryan all have some friction because Ryan went on a podcast the other day and bashed the both of them. So Matt's like, you're just telling me this now? And I said, Matt, welcome to the Real Housewives. That's how they do it. So Emily and Shane arrive first, then Tamra and Eddie, and now we see Jenn and Ryan arrive. Now, let me whack all of y'all because all of you guys came to Katie and Matt's house empty-handed. Are y'all serious? You guys know better. And Emily, just a few scenes ago, you had even asked, what should we bring them? So you thought it was okay in your pea brain to just not bring them anything? I find it so funny that for you guys to be so rich and so well-to-do, that y'all are so tacky. So we see Tamra having a dirty martini, and Emily says that she'll have one too. She's actually on her second one. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but all throughout the season, Emily is always trying to make drinking her personality. But things get real awkward because Ryan is saying hi to all the guys, and he tries to give Eddie a hug, and Eddie's like, like, no, like, hi is good, we're fine. So we see Emily and Tamra talking about what just happened because they saw Eddie reject Ryan. So Tamra's like, well, Ryan crossed the line like a little bitch. And I said, girl, if you don't stop calling that man a bitch, because if somebody called Eddie that, you'd be the first one screaming. But Ryan got his licks in because Jenn pulls him to the side and she's like, did Eddie say hi to you? And he's like, no, he's a baby bitch. He's a clown. Now, I couldn't stop screaming at this part because at one point we see Matt and Ryan outside, and Matt is just trying to get to know Ryan. He goes on to ask Ryan what he does for a living. Now, Ryan, your answer was telling. Ryan is stuttering. He's like, well, so yeah, about that. So I'm in real estate development. I've been in the mortgage industry for 15 years and I have 7 developments that I'm doing right now. And he's just going on and on and on, making no sense. And at one point, Matt was looking at him like, sir, you don't have to lie. So now we jump back to everybody in the kitchen, and mind you, Tamra has already finished her martini and she wants a second one. So as she's getting a second drink, Emily calls out that she wants a third drink. So Tamra's holding her drink and Emily's drink, and Tamra ends up spilling her drink. And it's clear that Tamra is tipsy. So did anybody catch how Eddie was looking at her and he looked so annoyed because he goes up to Matt and he tells Matt, no more drinks, cut it off for her, let that be it. I said it earlier, but Eddie does not look happy in that marriage, and I will not be surprised if we hear in a few years that they're getting a divorce. And what makes it funnier is the fact that Tamra has been going around all season long calling Shannon all types of drunks and alcoholics, but look at you. Jen points out that the last time Tamra got drunk like this, she got a napkin thrown in her face. So now they sit down to eat, and then all of a sudden, Tamra brings up Alexis, and I said, that is in such poor taste. Matt doesn't even know all the ladies. He doesn't even know Alexis. And also, you're in someone else's home. You're not the host. Katie and Matt should be leading the conversation, not you. So I'm already annoyed, but now I get even more heated because Emily jumps in talking about the fashion show. So I'm like, are you serious right now? We already talked about this in episodes 10 and 11. Why are you talking about all your image issues at Katie and Matt's home? Nobody wants to hear this. And Emily starts getting emotional. She's like, you know, I just worked so hard and she put me in a size 12 dress. And I'm like, Emily, why are you talking about your personal issues in front of mixed company? What is going on? I said, Emily, if you don't go and see the lady, then I know something, because something's wrong. This is absolute craziness to me that you will not let this fashion show stuff go. And for the last time, Heather did not do anything to you. So for you to blame her is ridiculous. Katie, I was getting irritated with you because as the hostess, you're the one who leads the conversation. If I were you, I would have shut this down immediately. We're in my home. I didn't gather you guys here today to talk about the drama in the group. And Tamra is so two-faced because in the last episode, she was talking about, oh, Heather, it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. And now all of a sudden at the table, she says, oh, Emily, do you think that Heather did that on purpose? And this is why I keep saying that these women owe Shannon their entire checks because she has been in everybody's mouths all season long. They can't go a scene without talking about Shannon. Shannon has been carrying this season on her back. So anyhow, Tamra brings up Shannon and the butt dial and how she overheard Shannon blaming Alexis about how Alexis paid a PR team to put this story out. And I said, why are you talking about Shannon at somebody else's dinner party? You don't feel crazy? And Tamra is so hateful because she goes on to say the real reason why Shannon hates Alexis, it isn't because of this lawsuit, it's because she's banging her ex-boyfriend. I said, girl, are you serious? You are aware that anybody can go and get some dick, right? You do know that if Shannon wanted a new man tomorrow, she could get one. If Shannon wanted John back, she could get him. If she called John and said, John, I want to sit on it tomorrow, John will be right there. I can assure you that Shannon is upset about this lawsuit. Losing money and being sued by a grifter hurts a lot more than another woman dating your ex. So now Katie jumps in and she says, well, maybe Shannon feels away because Alexis was around when her ex-husband sued her, and now Alexis is around when her ex-boyfriend sued her and now she's dating him. So there's a pattern. So Tamra cuts her off and she's like, no, you cannot compare the two. You cannot compare the two. I said, girl, shut up. You just want to be against Shannon, so you don't want to hear anything. So now they finally stop talking about Shannon, and Tamra says, well, can we please address the elephant in the room? And we all know what she's talking about, the drama and the rift between Eddie and Ryan and herself. So now Tamra turns to Ryan and she says, recently you went on a podcast where you bashed me as a mother, and then you said that Eddie doesn't have a job, he's unemployed, and I just want to know why. And Ryan says, I regret nothing. I feel completely validated in what I said. So that sets Tamra off, because one thing about Tamra always plays victim to circumstances that she created. And then on top of that, there is no ownership on her end ever. It's always somebody else's fault, even though she's the one who starts all the mess. So Tamra starts screaming her go-to move, and she's like, are you effing serious? And I'm like, girl, who are you talking to? And yes, he is serious because you started all this BS first. So he had every right to go off on you on the podcast. And he didn't go hard enough. So now it's a back and forth between Tamra and Ryan. Jen jumps in to defend Ryan. And then Ryan jumps back in and brings up what Eddie said about him last year, that he was at Ryan's house for a barbecue and one of his friends came up to him and said, oh yeah, by the way, Eddie told me that you like to F married women. And now Ryan wants to know once again, why can't him and Eddie have a sit down conversation? Because if the shoe were on the other foot, he would reach out and be like, hey, let's talk man to man. And Eddie says, what's the point of doing that? Because you're not a threat. You could never have my wife. That's why it's not a big deal. And I said, Eddie, that's such a sorry excuse. And you know in your heart that your wife is wrong. And she was dead ass wrong for what she was saying and doing all last season. So now Tamra blurts out that her husband isn't a bitch. And I just said, oh my gosh, you really won't be happy until somebody calls you and Eddie out, both of y'all's names. So now Jen and Tamra go at it, and Jen reminds Tamra that Tamra came for Ryan all last year. So now Tamra screams out, I told the truth. I said, girl, whose truth? And also says, there's a way to tell the truth, and how you told it last season was not the way. So now Tamra starts screaming about how Ryan went on a podcast and bashed her as a mom and as a woman and as a businesswoman and Eddie. And I just said, but think about all the things that you say. You've said horrible things about everybody on this cast throughout the years. You can't have it both ways, sis. Also, Tamra, you talk about folks every day on your podcast with Teddy. A prime example of you can dish it out, but you can't take it. Now, production plays the clip of what Ryan said. And honestly and truthfully, Ryan was very respectful because the interviewer brought up the relationship with Tamra and her kids. And Ryan said, look, I'm not in her household. I don't want to speculate about the kids, and I'm going to leave it right there. A very respectful response. So now Tamra says that Ryan was talking about her oldest son, Ryan. So she's like, well, you posted a dick pic of my son. So Ryan says, no, I didn't. All I did was repost a picture of your son. And I said, worry about your own Ryan, that's it. That's not talking about your son, and that's not reposting a dick picture. I said one thing about Tamra, Tamra is going to always reach, especially when she's wrong. So this dinner party is getting worse and worse by the second. And again, Katie, I don't understand why you didn't say, we're not doing this at my home. Take that somewhere else. You guys can leave. Because I'll be damned if I spent all this money preparing for this party and you guys mess it up. Absolutely not. So Tamra keeps calling Ryan a bitch, and now Jen jumps in and she's confused. She's like, Eddie, are you really going to sit there and let your wife just call my boyfriend a bitch like that? Like, speak up. I thought you were my friend. Like, what are you doing? So you have Eddie being sarcastic and he's like, am I her keeper? And I'm like, Eddie, that's your wife. You know that your wife is out of order. Tell your wife to stop this. And it's very ironic that Tamra is calling Ryan a bitch when you're just sitting there doing nothing while Tamra goes off the rails like that. So now Ryan's like, who speaks like this at your age at a dinner party? And now Tamra starts mocking him and she's like, oh, are you age shaming me because you're so perfect, Ryan? And I said, now Tamra, you've been calling this man a bitch for 5 minutes now. How dare you get angry at him because he's checking you about your behavior? So now Tamra starts taunting Ryan and she's like, well, how's the FBI? So now Eddie grabs her face and he's like, just stop it, Tamra, stop. It's too far, enough already. So everybody's shocked. They're like, wait, what is she talking about? So Jen's like, what, the FBI, excuse me? And now Tamra says that she's known for 6 months that Ryan and his business partner were raided by the FBI over an illegal gambling ring. So now we cut to Emily in her confessional, and she says that Ryan and this guy go to Vegas all the time, and where there's smoke, there's fire. I said, girl, shut up. you're just so miserable and pathetic, just like Tamra. You're always hoping for somebody's downfall and for bad news. So you just hope that this is true about Ryan. So now Jenn tells Eddie that she's always had massive respect for him and she's always loved him. He's been a great friend to her, but she's sad that this whole thing is coming between them. So at this point, Tamra storms off. She says, you know what, I'm done. Now, I just said, girl, let this be the last time that you are ever in Katie's house again. Because the way you showed out, Katie should have cursed you all the way out for this because I was appalled. And how dare you? The audacity for you to call Ryan a bitch multiple times, but now when he clocks you, now you want to get up and leave? I'm so done with Tamra. This also needs to be Tamra's last season too because I can't. I understand that we need a villain on the show, but Tamra takes things way too far. Now the way Ryan read Tamra all the way together in his confessional, he says that Tamra hates seeing other people happy and she tries to railroad people because she's miserable. Then he says that her marriage is a sham and Eddie is unemployed. I said, ooh, I said, please whack them several times.
I'm gonna just scoot on over and let you whack him. Get him again. Get him for me.
That's the real reason why Tamra is so invested in everybody else's drama and their lives, because she knows that her life and her marriage is a hot ass mess. That's why she's always so interested in taking down everybody else so that the focus is never on her. Because if we peel back the layers on what's going on in her home, she'll be on the floor crying. And it's so funny how you were sitting up there talking about Ryan like a dog like that in this episode, but on your Instagram story a few days ago, you sat up there apologizing to Ryan for what you said. Because Ryan is suing you for lying on him. And you must be scared to death because we know that you don't apologize to anybody. But Tamra, for somebody who has a lot of skeletons in her closet, it's quite comical that you have so much to say about other people's lives. And you're very lucky that Jenn and Ryan aren't petty because so many other people would hit below the belt and talk about the relationship that you have with your daughter, Sydney. But y'all, that's where the episode ends. And when I tell you guys, I am all talked out. Woo! Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your patience. I hope you all enjoyed. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.